Influential Sports, where passion meets precision. As I'm your host, Ed, diving into the plays, players, and stories shaping the game. And this is Opp Hunting, Opp Hunting episode 6. I'm talking about Darby Allin and how I think he should be booked to win the AEW World Championship next year. So it's 3 things we got to do before we get there. But first, MJF got to drop the CMLL World title to the Beast Mortos at World's End on the kickoff show. Couldn't think of, I don't know who's in CMLL, but I just know that he has that title for some reason still. He needs to drop that title. Have him drop it at December kickoff show, give Beast Mortos a big moment. And then let that, because I don't think MJF is going to be a crucial part of World's End. I don't think they're going to need him for that event, to be completely honest. Have Darby Allin get finished with the Death Riders feud. Let that finish this year. Going into 2026, he don't need to be feuding with them anymore. And then have Hangman defeat Samoa Joe at Full Gear in their rematch, so Joe retains the title. So Hangman retains the title and he has 2 wins against Joe. Then have him defeat Ricochet at World's End, because you don't want to do a lot of face versus face matches, but have him go against another good heel in Ricochet, have him get the win there. So that's what we need to do. Hangman got to fight Samoa Joe and Ricochet in 2 separate matches. MJF got to drop the CMLL World title, and Darby got to go through the Death Riders. Those 3 things that need to happen before 2025 ends for AEW. So that way you go into 2026 with a full reset. You have a chance to tell some other stories. And it all starts in January. Now in this video I won't be diving as deep into the as I usually do, because I usually have a date and stuff all planned out. Not doing that for this video because I was on a time crunch for this one. So I'm just go month by month and explain how that's going to help. So first I would have Hangman, and so for January I would have Hangman and Bobby Lashley feud. I'll continue their feud from January to February. The first 2 months of the year, have Lashley defeat Hangman to become the new champion, to become the new world champion. I think Lashley's going to get that world title at some point, and this would be the perfect way to do it, in my opinion, by having him beat Hangman. Lashley could play the heel if they needed him to, or it could just be a straight up face versus face match with nobody turning. And I think Lashley could get a good win. He could benefit from it. MVP and Shields go after the tag titles. Or maybe they go after singles gold, because there's enough singles gold for them to all hold singles gold at one point. There's enough titles for them to do that, so that's definitely a possibility. And then for MJF, what I would have him doing, I would have him in multiple different feuds. First, I would have him feud with Christian Cage, just outsider. You could tell that story. I don't know how much longer Christian gonna be in AEW, but I think him and MJF going back and forth on the mic could be really cool to see. Then in February, that's a feud that he'll win, of course, with him having a contract and just building up his legacy more, that he's gearing up for a second world title run at some point. Then in February, I would have him feud with Danhausen in a loser leaves town match. Tony Khan is getting fed up with MJF. Danhausen, he's back now, came back in January, and it's let's just say they want to release him because they don't know what to do with him. This is going to be how you get Danhausen out of here, and he's losing to a top heel. It's not like he's just losing to some random guy, like he's going to lose to somebody that's relevant. He could even, he's not going to go over, but he could become more over, if you know what I'm saying. So that'd be a good way to get Danhausen out of there instead of just, let's just release him. Let's actually have a reason to release or get rid of Danhausen. Or maybe he just goes to CMLL. Maybe they just throw him there for a bit. But because AEW don't own CMLL, so he can go there and he could thrive there and do something. So I think that'd be something cool that they could do in those first 2 months. And then in January and February, I would have Darby Allin. I would have him feuding with Brian Keith and Big Bill. So a good way to establish Darby is by having him running through these tag teams and factions. Now if he's able to run through the Death Riders and survive that in 2025, why can't he go through a weaker tag team within Big Bill and Brian Keith? But with this, it's going to cause a division between them two, because Chris Jericho will be gone already. So Darby beat Brian Keith in January, and then Big Bill, he don't think that he could do that to him. So then Big Bill gets the win. Big Bill loses in February. So they both have losses, and then the tension rises, and they both on Darby. But then going into March, Darby gets Orange Cassidy as a tag team partner, and they end up defeating the Learning Tree, or I don't know what they go by now. And then that's when Big Bill and Brian Keith officially split up. That's when they're done, no longer a tag team, and Big Bill could do something in the mid-card division. Now, since we done got to March now, Lashley, I would have him feud with Gabe Kidd for a little bit for New Japan Pro. Have him retain there, because his story with the Death Riders is over. Like Gabe Kidd, he don't have nothing to do really, and obviously you still use New Japan a lot because Takeshita just became IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. So give Gabe Kidd that opportunity to at least have a match with Lashley. It could be a good match between two powerhouses, and I think it'll be a fun feud. Then I would have MJF have a feud with Hook, because I think you need to establish Hook as a prominent mid-carder. He don't need to be in a tag team, but with his weight, his size, he's a good wrestler, but I think he works better in a mid-card role. So I think having him feud with a top heel and MJF, and he's not a pushover, but he's not taking nothing from nobody. It could be really beneficial for Hook's career to have that, and MJF will still get the win. And then that leads us into the April feuds, because I want to change it up a little bit. That way it's more consistency going down the line. Then I will have Lashley and MJF start a feud and rekindle their feud from the Hurt Syndicate with them splitting up. That's a story that still hasn't been finished yet, so we're going to restart that. Keep in mind, MJF still has the contract. And then Darby Allin and Hangman, I would have them have a feud because Darby's ready to go after the world title. But Hangman, out of respect, doesn't think he's ready for it yet. He said, you might have outsmarted John Moxley, but you can't. But that same strategy doesn't work against everybody else, because everybody isn't John Moxley, whether they're weaker or stronger. The game plan got to be different no matter who the opponent is. So then you can have that feud started there. And then in May, by the end of May, you have MJF cash in on Lashley to win the world title back. And this could be sometime on this could open up a Dynamite, Lashley cutting a segment, and MJF cash in the contract on him out of nowhere. And then Shelton Benjamin MVP, there was nowhere to be found because they wasn't expecting this to happen. But Lashley told them to take a day off, and they did. And then they weren't nowhere to be found, and MJF cashes in on them. And then I would have Darby get the win over Hangman, because I think Darby, he got to get that win, beat another former world champion to continue building his stock as one of the best in the division, one of the best singles wrestlers. And then once you get to June, that's when Swerve comes back. I don't know how significant Swerve's injury is, but Swerve comes back. He still wants gold. In June, MJF, Lashley, their feud is still going on. Like, they're still feuding with each other. They're still cutting promos against each other. MJF probably cooked Lashley on the mic, so you're going to have MVP step in a little bit. So then, because that's a big summer, because in July you also have Hangman and Darby. They now got to work together along with Swerve to save AEW from the Death Riders. And then this is going to be the last, 2026 should be the last, of the Death Riders. That's when they should split by the summer of 2026. And what better way to do it than have Hangman team up with two of his former rivals in Darby Allin and Swerve, and one being completely different because he burned Swerve's house, but Darby was just a fight out of respect. So them three teaming up to save AEW from the Death Riders and putting them to an end, basically. And then you go into August, you go into All In. You have a fatal four-way between Bobby Lashley, Swerve Strickland, and Hangman and MJF. And that's the main event. And obviously MJF will retain. And then I don't know who he pins in the match. He should pin, actually, because MJF, Hangman, and Swerve, that's the big three for AEW at this point. For as long as that's going to be the big three. Like, they had the most potential out of anybody there, and they're going to be there for a while. Obviously, you got the Moxleys of the world that's been there for a while, but we know his time is going to be up soon. He can't do this forever, but these guys still got plenty of years left. So I would have that fatal four-way, have MJF retain, and have him pin Lashley, because it's going to make the most sense for the story. Obviously, he could pin Actually, don't pin Lashley because he already did that. I would have him pin Hangman Ashley, since he wasn't able to beat him for the title when he did when he tricked him into the one-on-one match and didn't have to put his contract on the line. So I'll have him pin Hangman there. And obviously, Lashley, Swerve, they're out the equation now. And I would have Team AEW led by Darby Allin finally put a stop to the Death Riders and All In. If the Death Riders lose, everybody has to split up. Everybody has to go their separate ways. Daniel Garcia, you got to go to CMLL for a few months and do some stuff. Moxley, he's staying on Dynamite. Claudio, he can only wrestle on Collision. Willa Yuta, you got to go to wherever Mercedes gets those other belts from. You got it. Marina Shafir, you can go to Ring of Honor. Like, that's how they got to split it up. Once they lose, once Team AEW wins, everybody in the Death Riders is split up. They can't work together again. Like, they can see each other and wave, but they can never be in tag team matches with each other again in no form or combination or anything like that. And then in September, going into All Out, is when I would have the big title change. I would have, obviously, Darby's been building himself up at this point, and then Darby would challenge MJF after that. And then the match would be set up for All Out for Darby Allin to get his big moment. Because we see a lot of big moments happen at All In, and not too many. We've seen a big moment at All Out. That's Chris Statlander won the AEW Women's World Championship this year. But I would have another big moment at All Out, this time with the men's division, to have Darby Allin defeat MJF, who he has a long history with, who he's feuded with in the past, and have him finally get that win over MJF, and that's how he finally becomes AEW World Champion, by beating MJF at All Out next year. And then with the way I booked this, you would have multiple new World Champions in the same year. You would have Hangman going into the year's champion, then you get Lashley, MJF, and Darby. So you would have 3 new world champions, and they would all get a decent amount of time with the titles and have a decent amount of time to tell feuds and have some good matches. So I think this is the perfect way to book Darby Allin to win the AEW World Championship. That's how I would do it. Like, everything that's going on now, you got to complete that now so you can do a full reset going into 2026. And that's personally what I would do for Darby Allin. And if I was on the AEW writing team, that's how I would book him to win the AEW Men's World Championship. Leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what y'all thought, and share for others to see.